Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Jamsys, your friendly neighborhood aggro player that you guys all know and love. And the end of the season is coming up, so I'm just going to be playing a lot of RTA games just to keep up with the points. And so yeah, that's basically what this video is. I'm just going to be playing a few, quote unquote a few, even though you guys see the length of the video. But yeah, I'm basically going to try to aggressively draft till the end of the season. If you guys don't know, every RTA season, the closer you get to the end, the more and more people tend to play in a standard playstyle because it's the safest and most reliable, but that never stops me. Like last day of last season, I picked Payra Closer to Emperor, and we're going to do something similar. Well, not something similar because my gear is a lot better, but we're gonna aggressively draft to the very end. So if you like what you see or hear or like the Vine memes, please consider liking, subscribing, leave a comment if you want to. Like, I'm not your mom, do what you want. Anyway, my opponent here for the first match, they pick a really like old draft with Sierra and Destina. Like, I guess they haven't read the patch notes with Bryceria that largely killed that draft off, but you know, I'm not complaining. I love bullying these slower standard players, so it's all Gucci for me. So I pick Aiden here, and Aiden's kind of a weird pick because a lot of these players like to pick Lionheart Sirmia, but I pick her to shield my other DPSs because a lot of these anti-cleave options nowadays kind of involve Aiden. Like, I think Sage Ball's like an ever-present one, Karina is one, like an Omega damage Aiden on Dreamblade is one. And Aiden can kind of act as a pseudo anchor with evasion, even though she's not as good as Rylet for it in my opinion, but she can provide some protection with like that invincibility, and she does like good damage. And since a lot of the meta units are currently dark, it's pretty good. So my opponent here picks Sylvan Sage Vivian because, you know, she matches well into Stenny. She's like decent into Aiden. Like, I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but like she definitely can win that 1v1, especially if she gets lucky. And Karina, just because Karina's good into these kind of aggressive comps, especially if they're single target. But I actually see a Roy angle here potentially, because I don't think my opponent's going to be too keen on banning Stenny, and I pick Bryceria because Bryceria just like takes a dump all over his team. So no complaints from me there. And you'll notice that I actually did not pick a second CR pusher, and that is because my Roy is built in a way that is faster than most Destinas. So he sits at 230 cleanly with Frenzy. And another thing to note, he's my fastest DPS on my team. Like, he's speed tuned so that when DJV pushes up, he's the first to go. So even if Karina decides to blow her S3 into him, he like already did his thing. So I don't care if he dies. But yes, the match starts. I'm kind of surprised to see that the Sylvan Sage Vivian is on book, but I respect the hustle. My Sylvan Sage Vivian is also on book because she's kind of one of the only neutral book holders lately. Like, there's obviously Stenny, but she's so contested. And I also like picking C. Lillias, which is also another contested draft. So like, but I like her in lifesteal on book because she's a neutral. Oh god, if this ADS procced her S2 and killed Roy, I would have been so pissed. But anyway, luckily we're able to like,
oh god, it's so good,
do the Roy angle, even though Roy doesn't kill anything surprisingly. And this was without escort too because I banned the SCR wall, but like whatever. It's kind of too late in my opinion because I one-shot the Destina, and surprisingly I pushed this Karina back, so I'm able to one-shot this Archdemon too. And then since my whole team has invincibility from Aiden, it's good. But what was I saying? Probably nothing important. Anyway, this is what I mean by I don't like the Sylvan Sage Vivian into Aiden matchup, because if Aiden counters with her S2, it actually takes off a stack of insight. But oh, of course, it's my Aiden. It's right side. It's not right side Aiden, so she doesn't dodge. So Aiden actually dies here, but if she didn't, she would have stripped off the crit damage buff, and she can also place unbuffable. So if they have chatty, the shield doesn't come up either. So I've actually been soloed by a few Aidens with my Sylvan Sage Vivian. Oh, that's what I was talking about. Roy does too much damage and Stenny is able to finish off Sylvan Sage Vivian. So this first match is just a clean sweep. But as I was saying, I like Sylvan Sage Vivian because if you put her on lifesteal and book, she offers a great neutral book holder. Like when you pick Sylvan Sage Vivian, it doesn't scream aggro. It screams like kind of standard play. But you can use her aggressively as like an anchor, because a lot of the things that Sylvan Sage Vivian is weak to are weaker to aggro options, like Bryceria or like debuffers, and Sylvan Sage Vivian especially do a really good job because like these units like Edward, Designer Lilibet, they don't do too hot into Sylvan Sage Vivian, and Sylvan Sage Vivian has no trouble just like soloing them. And Sylvan Sage Vivian, if you can give her attack buff, can one-shot Stennies with S3 too if they have no mitigation. So that's always something to keep in mind. And she's just like a durable DPS, and if you give her immunity with DJB, like she's able to survive a lot of things. You just have to keep in mind that Sylvan Sage Vivian does not beat Landy, especially if Landy has book. That's something I've learned the hard way, because even though in theory Sylvan Sage Vivian can knock her out of stealth, Landy can soul burn continuously off of Sylvan Sage Vivian, and depending on how fast the Landy is, Landy can actually lap you and like burn inside charges faster than you build them up. So that's a pro tip. And I just went into it because one of my comments asked if Sylvan Sage Vivian is like a good cleave anchor, and I would say yes. And she holds book. So 2 OP things, you know, like good 1v4 potential, holds book. What more could you ask for? Kind of like Stenny, but I think Stenny's a bit safer because she has like perma-stealth. And she can use speed or destruction set, but it's whatever. My opponent here also picks like a weird side grade of the first guy, so we're just gonna do what we did to the first guy again. My opponent picks Destina and a buff reliant character, so I pick Bryceria here just so I can deny them any fun. My opponent picks Edward, and I'm like contemplating like, do I want the Roy angle, and like when do we not want the Roy angle? So I'm just gonna ban Edward just in case they ban my Roy. But if they ban Stenny, I can still soul burn Bryceria and it'll be fine. And then that looks like what ends up happening. And I kind of just have to pray that whatever happens here, it's gonna be a little weird because ideally I would want my Bryceria to go first so she can soul burn, and then maybe my Roy could one-shot the Destina, but I actually go for a little bit of a weirder play because Bryceria's defense break is actually not 100%, it's only 75. So in my head, that was a little bit of a gamble. So I went for the S1 into Senya, maybe to see if we can proc Champions Trophy. And I also wanted to maybe barrier inversion because this is the only source of barrier on this team. So I was like, oh, I'm doing like such great chip damage. But I didn't actually realize that this pushed my Roy above my Bryceria. So now I'm in like a weird, awkward spot because I'm not too sure if my Roy is able to break this Destina. But like, I'll obviously try. But it might get a little bit sketchy. And the thing is, like, you know how that really fun thing Para used to do like last season where she can like solo bruisers? See, Lillias doesn't do it as well because she doesn't have that soul burn stun. And judging by this damage, I wasn't able to kill this Destina. And this Destina was also on Water's Origin, which is kind of another L on my part. I think with all the Destina counters, you're not seeing a lot of high ER Destinas anymore. You're seeing a lot of these like bulky anti-aggro Destinas, which are like equally annoying in my opinion. My opponent goes for the S3 with Destina, so I feel comfortable enough to just rip my Bryceria S3. I kind of just have to hope that this Senya is not on ER. And oh, luckily for me, Senya is not on ER. And I remember this shoe actually. I faced this guy before. So this Shu survived a Bryceria S3 into Steny S3 with a defense break and vigor with adamant. So I know that this Shu is like a higher damage variant, so I'm not too worried. And now that Senya is forced to pass up her turn because she wasn't able to actually press S3 due to unbuffable, I kind of just have to go for the S2 here and hope I land. Luckily, we do land the important part of that, where we actually get the redirected provoke, so Phyllis isn't able to cleanse anything off. I S1 Phyllis here because I don't want to proc the provoke or the shield from either DPS. My Roy somehow is able to lap around and press S3, except he kind of bricks the crit on the 2 important units. Like, it doesn't hit Shu, it doesn't hit Senya, so that's kind of interesting. He's kind of in the range where he's able to die from like a Shu S3 plus S1 from Destina, so that's kind of awkward. My opponent chooses to push up the Shu here, just so the Shu actually gets a turn. Like, he kind of accepted that his Senya is probably not going to live another turn, and he's banking on Shu countering and soloing my team, and I'm really afraid of that actually. So we just kind of have to pray that things all go well. I finish off Senya just so she can't like poke and provoke my DPS units anymore, and I tunnel into Destina so my team has their team has no more sustain. Luckily we do pull Roy, so his Destina goes down, and now we start to gamble. It's a big risk to Soulburn Roy because she's on counter set. Like, I think I remember this, but I think this is very doable. Like, yes, this Shu is about to delete at least one person. Oh, I was kind of hoping Bryceria lived there, so he'd have to choose between Roy or Bryceria. But now he's free to just S3 Roy for some sustain, but we still have hope. The Shu is slow, and Conqueror Lillias is balanced and is also like 310 speed. And she is on Champion's Trophy. And this DJB also has stun chance on S1. So I press S2 knowing full well it's not going to do anything to Shu, but I really didn't want her to proc any counters. So I'm able to continue cycling and outspeeding. She also has attack down, which, you know, she scales off HP, so it doesn't matter too much, but it is not insignificant. Frenzy adds to attack, so that decreases that. I soulburn DJB for some extra heals, eat a counter, please no S2, please. And luckily it does not happen. So basically we're just rolling the S1 casino for stuns, and we actually get it. And so we just need to get it to happen one more time, and I think we're good, because even though Lillias and DJB don't really do too much damage with their S1s, they're able to spam S1s so often that we're able to actually out damage the Shu somehow. Oh, we dodge another counterattack, get another crit. I don't soulburn here because she has another turn left, and we actually managed to grind down Shu. So this is a great showcase of how DJB Lillias, very great, fair and balanced combo. She can't do this against Apox though. Will not recommend. You always lose. As a fun fact. But yeah. Whew. I've been taking a break from RTA though. I don't play as much, so like my mental is like slightly better, but there's a few annoying things that I don't like about RTA. Like, if I don't get first pick Conqueror Lillias, my drafts kind of like fall apart and I don't like them. And that's kind of something I have to think about, because, you know, it's not like Conqueror Lillias is like first pick, first ban material, you know. My opponent, in response to my Conqueror Lillias pick, basically goes for a bunch of stealth. Like, this is like the stealth draft against Zero, which I don't really understand because nobody in my team really screams stealth. But I think they're banking on outspeeding me with Lidica and then resetting me with Lidica, I think. My opponent last picks Cowrick here, and in my head, I'm thinking that even if a Leica goes, I don't really care. And I'm pretty sure they're going to ban Cidd anyway. So we're about to speed check this guy, because this guy seems very confident in his speed in the way that he didn't pick any speed imprints. And yeah, like, no surprise there. He banned Cidd, because if I ban Leica, his Cowrix just white right there, wide for the white, wide open to get one shot by Cidd. Oh, look at that! I win the ego boost, the ego check. Sorry, I speed check my opponent. I win because my Conqueror Lillias is real. And how lose? If you take first turn, how lose? I'm kind of forced to S2 here, because Leica can S2, but I don't think the S2 really kills anything important, and I'm more keen on denying this Fire Cowrick his turn. So as I expected, Leica does S3. Surprisingly, they actually get the speed down on DJB, but I think it's just like that gray area because he only has like 220. So if most Leicas fall between like 120 and like 150 effectiveness, so that's probably where it came from. I S1 with Bryce area because I don't actually want to strip immunity off of Edward, and I'm just going to take this time out to one-shot this Edward while I can safely. That dual attack really didn't matter because Stenny's S3 does more damage, and as you can see, it would have done more than enough damage to kill this Edward with pen set, luckily. Fire Cowrick wastes his turn. Redirect provoke. Oh, it's why C. Lillias killed off all mid-speed cleave when she came out. The Aiden goes for the S1 just to heal up, but I was pretty confident that even a dual attack from DJB would have killed, but like in hindsight, maybe not. But we win that 60-60 gamble, and my opponent quits because he knows that Fire Cowrick cannot solo a draft, especially against Briarwatch Ice area. Unlucky, you know? But as with anyone with a problem, we just queue straight up for another RTA match, and we get dinner in Korean. And I want to point out that although I am up against more champion players lately, it's because there's a lot more people playing at the Emperor cutoff level, so all the MMRs kind of like blend together. So just because you see champion players, you shouldn't underestimate them, is the moral of this story. And like I said, my opponent picks Conqueror Lillias really annoyingly, so I'm kind of forced to pick Leica here just in case. Not just in case, just to like counter initiate or like prevent the initiation altogether. I pick Cidd because it kind of looks like he's speed contesting, and I pick Wander Silk just so I can match the speed imprint on his side. My opponent can also pick two speed imprints. My opponent can't pick two speed imprints in the last slot because he needs another opener in case I ban Conqueror Lillias, but my opponent picks Kayron, so I kind of need an anti-Kayron unit. And the best one I can think of currently is Bryceria, so I pick Bryceria. And I know my opponent's probably going to ban Bryceria because he's good into like his whole team. But I think that I'm fine. My Cidd should go first, and my Cidd doesn't have any buffs. So I should be able to push this Conqueror Lillias back. And then the thing about this that is tough is like this, his Rimuru is probably on immunity, and I don't know if this Rimuru is on damage or not because I haven't faced this guy before. I just go for the raw S3 to see Lillias, but seeing his health, like her health, I probably should have soul burned it, and if I soul burned it, I would have been able to actually kill this Weedrid here pretty risk free, and I think it would have been pretty good. Like, Weedrid obviously gets one-shotted because, you know, it's Weedrid. And now my opponent's Rimuru was able to go with attack buff, and judging by that HP, it looks like it's on more of a damage build than a tankier build. And I forgot, if I killed the C. Lillias actually would have been in a... No, C. Lillias would have given my Cidd Wind Rider, so this Rimuru would have been forced to go into my Wander Silk or Leica, and it wouldn't have been so bad. But now that Aiden is able to go and put invincibility on the rest of his team, it's looking kind of rough. I kind of have to hope that my Wanderer Silk can survive a S1 from Rimuru and potentially S2. Hopefully you get the pushback, but you know, unfortunately RNG is not on my side, and it turns out it didn't even matter because the S1 from Rimuru is able to one-shot both my DPSs, so we lose there, but I think we were too greedy with the soul burn. Like, I think that's one thing you have to learn about if you play with a lot of souls, is you kind of have to go for it sometimes. Anyway, going on to the next match though. We're going up against Stun. LOL reading. I missed the name, but like, I think he had a DDR profile picture, so like mad respect, dude. He bans Aiden and AOL, so like again, he's a really aggressive drafter. So you know what is really good against aggressive drafts? Outspeeding them. So I pick my fastest speed unit, and we see how my opponent drafts. So my opponent drafts Lua, which is, you know, pretty common pick since I don't pre-ban her. And my opponent picks Commander Pavel. So I already know what's going on. So this Lua is built with a crit chance necklace, and she is under Guiding Light. So what they aim to do is they aim to press S2, S1 with Lua in the first turns and proc Commander Pavel and go from there. So what I do against Lua is like the best answer against her is honestly outspeeding her. So I pick another opener with competitive speed and a speed imprint just in case. And I pick S10A plus a bridge unit that is also good into his team. So what I mean by this is if I press S2 on Leica, it gives hit chance for one, and Ida is also pushed up by 20%. So I'm given the option of like banning Ida and just going for the S2 with Leica. I could honestly ban Hyafin for the safest play here, but I'm kind of sus about the speed of this Ran, especially since my opponent last picked it. So I just ban it, and I'm pretty confident that my Sea Lilius outspeed because it's a real Sea Lilius jazz hands. So I just kind of have to hope we outspeed, and luckily we do. So yeah, the match is pretty much over. I stripped the stealth away from Lua and Commander Pavel, and I provoke Hyafin. This is why Hyafin picker should pre-ban Conqueror Lillias, by the way, because Conqueror Lillias shits all over Hyafin. And then my Ida is able to go and just delete his team. It doesn't even matter that General Purgus is getting pushed up, or like his whole team, because his whole team that does anything is about to die here.
Bitch, I can't
and that's kind of unlucky for my opponent. He was confident in his speed, but so was I. It kind of is the problem with this meta, I think, since this meta is so aggressive and speed RNG like fucks up with your speed tuning and like speed contest. It's kind of not as fun for a lot of players. Oh god. Okay, so you know how I like to bully standard players? There's a few standard players that like to bully me back, and one of the major people is Cyanox. So if you guys don't know Cyanox, he's French, so he's already like super cultured, but he is also a Eaton first picker, like Eaton, like the 3-star tank thing. Yeah, he first picks that in all his matches, and he does like omega tank down comps, which make me want to die. So I already have like brain damage from past trauma. I think my win rate against him is like 1 in 4. So I'm like low-key panicking. I don't know what to do here. He's going to first pick his Eaton because like what else is he gonna first pick? Nothing, you know. I normally pre-ban Politis against him so I can use DJB against his Eaton's protection set, but I actually wasn't paying attention to the match found thing, so he's able to get by with his Politis pick, which I did not like. As expected, he's able to first pick Eaton, and I'm kind of unsure what my opponent is going to go for. He goes for Edward, which I found a little bit strange, but it's not that strange because If you guys have played Steny into Edward matchup, you will know that Steny only lands poisons 100% of the time on Edward when you really need her to not get countered. So I'm thinking that, you know, like, I can be a standard player too, albeit a more aggressive one. So I pick more standard-ish. I pick Aras because mine is a fast, aggressive Aras. And I pick Destina just to be like the backbone of my comp, you know? And we kind of just have to wait to see what kind of Eldritch Horror Synox is about to torture me with. I just hope it's nothing too bad, because I am not trying to be in a match for 50 turns. That's why I don't play standard, you know? I just don't like standard because it's just really annoying and I don't want to deal with it. My opponent picks Landy Maid here, which makes sense. I don't know if his Landy is on counter Bloodstone, but I'm assuming it is because it's Giga Tank Down. So I pick anti-tank down units. I pick Strays here because Strays is good into Eden Asterisk. We'll get into this Asterisk later. And I pick Roy because since Aras is here, I'm actually able to enable him pretty well. So I'm not too mad about that. And there are no debuffs on them, so I'm able to just freely pick. So my opponent is hovering Senya, and I ban it, but I think I made the wrong ban here. I think I should have banned his Eaton, but I didn't want to take his waifu away from him. And my opponent understandably bans Roy because Roy is busted into standard drafts. So remember when I said Strays is good at killing Eaton Asterisk? And that asterisk is because my Strays does not have any attack buffs in this match. So the round starts and, excuse me, I immediately go for the S2 Death Break into Landy and praying for no counters, but I don't get the RNG. So I don't have a lot of plays left here, so I just have to press
tried. At least,
Strays S3 and just hope for the best. Except, since he doesn't have attack buff, this Eden actually lives, and this matters because even if I push up Steny, she kind of can't kill anything beyond mitigation. And now Maid is free to go for her S3, which is going to be really annoying. I'm just gonna have to hope. English. I'm just gonna have to hope. I'm just gonna have to hope that my Strays is able to lap around safely and hopefully strip off with his S2. I actually just go for the S3 stun onto Steny. It's kind of 50-50 though because Maid gives ER already, but I guess I got lucky here. So Landy does get stunned, so she's forced to pass her turn, which is nice because my opponent is not able to put up speed buff or anything. And now we just kind of have to hope for the best. I S1 with Aras to strip off buffs, and luckily we do strip off the revive, and we S2 and we're able to strip off all the buffs because Strays ignores ER when he's higher attack, but we got lucky on Landy, I guess, which is kind of the running theme of my matches against Synox. If I want any chance to win, I kind of have to hope that I get lucky. Not Roy, the other one, the other collab unit, Edward obviously gets the poison connected, so Landy's able to survive here, and then Maid stuns my Strays, so Strays is able to push up, which is so fucking annoying. Ed just goes, by the way, this Ed is injury Ed, so this like, why do you do this to me, man? Landy goes for the S3. It's going to heal Landy up a lot, I'm assuming, because it's like a powered up S3. But luckily, Landy hasn't taken enough turns to actually get the attack buff. And Destina survives. So I think I was fine here if I just... You'll see what I mean. But I think I was fine here if I didn't make a misplay in half a second. So I S3 with Aras to get defense buff. And my Destina actually survives the Maid S1. So what I should have done is I should have just S3'd and passed my turn, and then Destina would still be able to provide value. But what I end up doing here is I actually push up Aras to go for the S2. And watching it back, I'm kind of questioning myself why I took such a gamble. Because if I just S3'd, I could have taken off the what's that thing called? Hit chance down, and then I could hopefully like survive an attack from Landy because it doesn't have attack buff. But Stenny, of course, lands her fucking poison onto the Edward and gets everyone killed. So there you go. Cleave Brain strikes again. What can you do? I think the answer to Synox is that I just have to play his game. So because one of Synox's strongest strengths is that he warps the match into his like comfortable, what's that thing called? So while most people are comfortable in their playstyle, Synox's comp is like countered by like other tank down teams that tank down better than he does. So he takes people out of their comfort zones, and a lot of people aren't good at playing outside their comfort zones, which is why a lot of people lose to Synox. But I can't really complain or comment since I do literally the same thing by trying to force cleave or aggro into him when his team clearly states like, do not try to cleave or aggro me. But what can you do when you are unintelligent cleave brainer, you know? But going on into the next match, the first match, lol. We picked Conqueror Lillias because Conqueror Lillias is busted, and having a almost 310 Conqueror Lillias also really busted. How lose, you know? We're going to see how my opponent drafts, but I'm pretty sure my opponent is going to draft pretty aggressively, judging by their pre-bans, because they pre-banned exactly the same way I did. So I'm expecting to see a Stenny pick here, plus another opener / counter opener. And so we see the counter opener in DJB, so I'm kind of expecting Stenny to appear in the second pick. And what do you know, guys? What do you know? Like, my mind is just, no, because it's what I would do if my opponent took Lillias' first pick away from me. So I pick Lidica here because Lidica is faster than DJB, and Sylvan Sage Vivian is a safe bookholder. And my opponent picks Ran here, so I guess we're racing, unfortunately. I'm kind of strapped for what imprints I can pick, but depending on my opponent's last pick, what I mean by strapped is like I can't pick Wanderer Silk or my team doesn't have enough damage, so I'm kind of like resigned into picking like Shuri or like Mutrid for my last imprint slot is what I meant. So we're kind of just waiting on what my opponent is picking in the next slot, and my opponent picks Politis, and my opponent picking Politis is not that big of a deal for me. I just pick Cidd. The way they picked this Ran, like I'm pretty sure this is a damaged Politis, so it should die to a Cidd S3. And I pick Ida here just because now there's two threats. So either he bans my Cidd and Lillias outspeeds him, and then Ida's able to push up and do her thing, or my Cidd outspeeds, kills the Ran, and my Lidica outspeeds the DJB, so I'm able to do my thing. If you didn't notice, this whole draft hinges on me outspeeding, but you know, I'm pretty confident in my speed, so we're going to speed or brake check them. That Edward is really annoying, and I don't feel like dealing with it, especially if he bans this Sylvan Sage Vivian. I don't have a good answer for Edward, so I just kind of have to go for the outspeed angle here and see what my opponent decides to ban and go from there. Okay, so my opponent banned Lillias because like he thinks I have my best speed gear on Lillias, which he is correct, I do, but my Cidd is no slouch either. Like he's still above 300 speed, so he's in the area where he should be able to reasonably outspeed Rans, hopefully. So my plan remains unchanged. So I outspeed, mine outspeeds, hey, let's get it. Mine does outspeed. So we're able to one-shot this Ran with Cidd S3. And then we get Windrider, and we soul burn into DJB, so DJB can't do shit with Lidica. So he's reset, he does nothing now. And then we're able to soul burn with
My
Ida.
water?
One shot his DPSs, or not one shot, but delete his DPSs, and if they're still alive for after, we would have been able to just press Sullen Siege Riven S3 and kill them with a follow-up S3. But yeah, that's it for today's video. If you like my videos, thank you for supporting me. I'm almost hitting a milestone with my channel, coming up on 500 subs, and watch out for that because I'm going to announce something when that happens. But as always, I'll catch y'all next time.